James Hayashi, McGrath Estate Agents. Thanks so much for joining the show. Great to see you, mate.
Pleasure, Trent. Good to see you as well, mate. How's things?
Good, thanks. Hey, big weekend for you guys. Over 37 auctions that you've done within the McGrath network. So yeah, tell me how you went. Last weekend.
Yeah, so across our company-owned footprint, we had 37 auctions scheduled. 10 sold prior, 11 was sold at auction. So we landed up on a 60% clearance rate, which is in line with the rest of Sydney Metro. Eastern suburbs is a little bit stronger. That closed out at 80% clearance.
Yep.
So there's still some really good buyer activity out there.
And I guess just on buyers, are you seeing, buyer, kind of inquiries kind of pick up? Obviously, last month was probably a little bit quiet, maybe the month before that. But yeah, how did your buyer numbers kind of go at your open homes?
Yeah, so look, obviously at the start of the year, we came off the back of a very strong year last year. There was some good momentum coming into January, February. Obviously, COVID hit around that March period and really shut things down. We couldn't have open homes, couldn't have on-site auctions. So that really pulled back the level of inquiry and number of inspections. But since we had the announcement of the restrictions easing, where we could go back to open homes, go back to auctions on site with social distancing, of course, we've definitely seen numbers pick up. Across the regions, across our open homes, we had close to probably 600 or 700 properties open. We saw an average of 16 buyers per property inspect. So that's a really healthy number, and we should continue to do so. Obviously, this time of year is typically a little bit quieter, but I guess because we do have those travel restrictions in play, that school holidays haven't really played much of a part, and that we're actually active and out there looking to buy.
Gotcha. So I guess any mention on some standout auctions? I see here you did 6/9 Regent Street in DY. Looks like a pretty impressive property. Nice big kind of courtyard at the back there. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about that one.
Yeah, that was a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment. It had a 93 square metre terrace on it too, with views over to DY. 70s style building. That was hotly contested. We had 12 people register on that one, and it ended up selling for $1,232,000.
And 4 Frederick Street in Randwick. Nice, beautiful old, kind of colonial establishment on that one. How did you go? I think Nick Wise was the selling agent on that one.
Yeah, Nick Wise from our Coogee office. He sold that one. That was a freestanding house. Very, very good location. It's a walking distance to both the beach and the spot in Randwick. That one had 5 people register. It sold for $3,265,000. What I highlight in that property is it's such a strong price for property without parking. So it really goes to show the housing stock at the moment.
Gotcha. And just a bit of a market update in general, how things kind of been panning out over the last kind of 2 weeks. Obviously, open homes are back open. A limited amount of kind of online auctions happening now. You guys kind of back on the tools in terms of auctions. But yeah, how's you kind of feeling in the marketplace?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I thought that the online auctions might start pulling back. The fact that we could, we can call in on site now. But another auction I did down in Bondi myself personally on Saturday for one of my agents, Nick Leonard from the Coogee office. We actually had one person register and bid online. So there is still that demand. The convenience, the Auction Now system is a great platform. Really makes it easy for buyers. In terms of where the market's at the moment, well, COVID obviously did throw, a cat amongst the chicken coop when that all came out, and we were really wondering what the long-term impact would be. But we've really seen that off the back of, like I said, the strong market last year, we had a number of people who'd sold who had to actually transact and buy. So that sort of carried us through quite a period of April. And we're also seeing a lot of buyer interest and buyer intensity from those people who have had pre-approval, and they're worried that their pre-approval might get scaled back due to the banks quite strict on their lending criteria. They're checking every box, making sure, for obvious reasons, that there is security around the money they're lending. So the buyer pool is very active at the moment. They're out there, they're inspecting now, making offers. We are seeing some very strong results at auctions. What's happening in the next few months? Look, it's kind of hard to say. It could go either way. We do feel that, potentially when the JobKeeper allowances, the other government stimulus packages start to wind back, and the moratorium on mortgage, that there could be a lot more stock come to market of those sellers that have to sell. So supply levels could increase. So we are advising our clients who are looking to sell in the next 6 to 12 months to do so now, while we are working with certainty and around a certain buyer pool that are active in the marketplace.
Some great advice, James Hayashi, McGrath Estate Agents. Thanks so much for joining the series.
All good. Thanks, Trent.
John Camino, CEO of Bridge to Bricks Buyers Agency in Sydney. Welcome to the show, mate. Great to have you on.
Good to be here, Trent. Nice to see you.
You're dealing with, I guess, buyers daily. I guess as a buyer's agent, what are you seeing with buyers at the moment? Are they kind of sitting on the fence? Are they kind of, I guess, a little bit more opportunistic? What's your feel with buyers at the moment?
Yeah, well, there are more buyers than sellers at the moment. So the real problem here is a scarcity of stock. The buyers that come to me are often looking for buyers. They'll come to me and say, John, we think it's a really good time to buy. And I think that they're actually assuming that there are bargains out there, but actually I'm not seeing bargains. I'm just seeing scarcity. That's what I'm seeing. To give you an example, I went to an auction yesterday at Banksia near Arncliffe. The guide was $950 for a semi, and it sold for over 1.16 million. So about $200,000 over the guide. There are about 4 active bidders, and that was quite typical of a market that has more buyers than sellers. So the real problem is scarcity. Over the weekend, there are about 360 auctions, which compares, it's down about 50% off the prior year, about 68% cleared. So the real issue is that there's a lack of scarcity, and there are buyers coming out because they can see that there is some distress for some time.
And I guess where do you see the first home buyers at the moment? I guess with anybody investing, they like a bit of certainty in the market, but I guess for first time buyers, there seems to be a little bit of uncertainty in the market. Obviously, COVID, etc. Where do you see kind of first home buyers kind of going at the moment?
Well, going into COVID, first home buyers were the hottest part of the market, the second half of last year, and certainly coming into 2020. So first home buyers were back. It's hard to tell with COVID. There's just not a lot of data. We talked about scarcity and just these really low volumes. So it's really hard to know whether the first home buyers are back, but certainly leading into this, first home buyers were back. In Sydney, if you take Sydney, the first home buyer grant used to sort of tap out at about 800,000. So while first home buyers are really conscious of the first home buyer grant, it doesn't get you that far in Sydney. And so it's not the main motivator. The main motivator for first home buyers, I think, is things like FOMO and social pressure, actually. So the first home buyers were back. They probably still are, but it's hard to tell. And I guess with industries like retail and hospitality being decimated, it's possible that the first home buyers have taken a step back, but we'll have to see.
Gotcha. And I guess, do you see more, toward the back end of, 2020 that we might get a bit more, fresh data and a bit more understanding of what's actually going on? Obviously with the government stimulus kind of finishing, or are we more looking into, you might get a picture of what's happening in Sydney anyway, more towards, Q1 2021? Where does that kind of sit?
Yeah, over time the data will get better, but it'll be reasonably unreliable while the quantity remains so low. There's a lot of speculation that in September, when the government grants start to run out, then we'll start to see a second phase of distress in the real estate market. My personal view is that we can't look at the headwinds of COVID-19 and the problems of the unemployment and so on without looking at the tailwinds. There's a lot of stimulus in the system. Interest rates are effectively zero. Existing homeowners can refinance at, say, 2.5%. So there's not going to be that distressed selling. So it's quite possible that there will be an asset price melt up. So we go into a bad economy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that asset prices fall. If anyone who's been to Zimbabwe or Venezuela or anyone who lived through the 1970s knows that you can have a bad economy and inflation at the same time. And my guess would be we'll see something like that, but time will tell.
Gotcha. John Camino, thanks so much for joining Soho Live Property. Appreciate it, mate. Thanks so much.
Pleasure, Trent. Anytime.
Thanks for watching. If you want to check out more, visit sohoapp.com, or if you're looking at adding your properties into Soho and connecting your CRM, check out the links in the description below.